everybody? Welcome to Geared Up. This is our weekly live broadcast where we talk about lighting, techniques, gear, photography. We take your questions. We talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. If you're watching this on prophoto.com, you're going to see some stuff pop up around the screen. That's just if you want more information on whatever we're talking about, because we're diving into a lot of different beauty dish stuff today and a lot of different modifiers. You're probably going to see a lot of modifiers pop up. So if you want that experience, you can click the link in the comments section on YouTube and Facebook. If you don't really care, hang out with us on YouTube and Facebook. You're not going to get that experience, but we're still here. We're still taking your questions, so feel free to ask away. So let's dive into our topic for the day. So kind of clickbaity, right? With the stop doing this with your beauty dish thing, but it's something that I observe a lot. And let me preface it with this. I say stop doing this with your beauty dish. Do whatever you want to do. Like, the beautiful thing about photography is you can kind of break the rules, but I want to make sure in this live that you know the rules. Because I think some people just kind of place things wherever they want to place them, which is cool. You're exploring your light, and that's super awesome. But understand what you're giving up by doing certain things with your beauty dish. And what you're gaining with certain things with your beauty dish. It's not all negative.
You should have said that at the end. You should have made them wait for that, you know?
I could have, but yeah, I'm trying to make sure. Well, I just want to make sure that this it's not sounding like super duper negative about this stuff, because it's not. But again, it's stuff that I've observed. I just want to make sure you understand how this works, and then break the rules, right? Learn the rules, break them. Sweet. So what is it that I see all the time? It's people taking a beauty dish and backing it way too far up. So I've seen a lot of shots of people who take their beauty dish on location and it's back 10, 15, 20 feet. The problem with that is a beauty dish is made to be used really, really close. Somewhere in like the 3 foot range, 3, maybe 4 foot at the most. Granted, you can get a little bit bigger beauty dish and back it up a touch more, but they're really inefficient modifiers. So they're in the pro photo world, especially when you're talking about the hard reflectors, right, like right here. Yeah, they can see that. Cool. That's called a soft light reflector. So it falls into our reflector category. So it has some of that punch and that snap that you're going to get out of something like a magnum reflector or something like one of the other hard reflectors that we have. But because it has this deflector plate right here in the middle, it keeps that light from being so hard. So what it's doing is it's taking the light, kicking it towards the deflector plate, and then bouncing it all around the dish, right? That keeps the light soft because you're supposed to be working at, these close distances. It keeps the light relatively large in relationship to you or your subject, right? So it can be a nice soft light, and then the deflector plate keeps that harder light from hitting you. So it's using the size of the dish as opposed to just shooting light directly out at you, right? So when you start to back this thing up, one, you're losing that size in relationship to your subject aspect of a beauty dish, because we'll just do this here. So it's cool, we're gonna cover it up. So say you are technically from this beauty dish right now about 3 to 4 feet away. As I start to back this up, in relationship to you, it's getting tinier and tinier and tinier. It's a smaller light source. So you're losing what makes the beauty dish awesome, right? By backing up really far. And 2, it's efficient because it has to hit this deflector plate, it has to bounce into the light, so the rest of the modifier, and then it has to come forward. If it works for you and you like it, cool. Just know that if you're using something like a B10 or some other battery powered light and you're on location, like, you're having to use a lot more output than you would if you would have decided to just go with the 2 foot OCF Octa, right? Same size modifiers, but now you have to overcome the light hitting the deflector plate, bouncing back, and then shooting out and around. Whereas you could have just went with the 2 foot Octa. Yeah, you're still gonna have some light loss because of the diffusion, but it's more direct. Like, you're getting some of that straightforward light, which is nice. So things to think about. And we'll look at both of the shots just as we compare these things. So we'll take a shot up close to the beauty dish, shot up close with a 2 foot Octa, so you can kind of see the difference. And then we're gonna put the beauty dish back, like, so Kate's sitting here. That beauty dish is probably 10 feet away. So we'll put the beauty dish 10 feet away, and we'll look at the light comparison between like a 2 foot Octa and the beauty dish, and we'll look at the light comparison between the beauty dish and just saying like, hey, if you're outside and you're starting to back the light up a whole lot, like maybe what you really should be doing, forget to pull this off my awesome wall, what you maybe should be doing is using something like this, like an OCF Magnum reflector. The cool thing about the Magnum reflector is whereas you're gonna lose a lot of light with the beauty dish, obviously again, hit the deflector, fill the softbox, shoot that light out, this is incredibly efficient. So this is going to allow you to actually make up some light that you would normally lose. Whereas, so I'm using B10s today, so 250 watt seconds. So you put this on like right at the front of a B10, that makes it like a 1,000 watt second light. You're gaining 2 stops of output, which is cool. So the difference is the light source is smaller, so the light is gonna be a little bit harder, but you're starting to back this thing up to the point anyway where this it's not really a soft light reflector. It's just kind of a indirect softbox at that point. So.
Yeah, and then Mark H says, isn't that just a small umbrella? Beauty dishes by nature are shallow and create high contrast.
It could be, yeah. I mean, it could be similar. So someone was asking, isn't a beauty dish like an umbrella? Yes and no. I think some of the scooping shapes of the beauty dish kind of can throw the light differently. That being said, probably something like maybe like a small deep umbrella probably give you a lot of the same qualities, I would suspect. I've never done a side-by-side comparison, but it could be a cool comparison to do. But yes, it is technically an indirect light. You're using the light to fill up the modifier and then blast that back. Saying that you're using like a silver or a white bounced reflector, if you're doing something with like a shoot through umbrella, it's going to be way more softbox like than it would be beauty dish like. So good call, Mark. You said Mark said that?
Yeah.
Cool. Good call, Mark. So sweet. Let's take some photos. We talked about what not to do. Let's show you why it's not that great. And if at the end of the day you've decided, I don't really care, I like backing my beauty dish up 30 feet, back your beauty dish up 30 feet. So.
You do you.
I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. I'm just going to tell you how to live your life. All right, cool. So let's start with, so just light-wise, we're using B10s. B10X. So we got a B10X here. Oh, another thing to know about the OCF beauty dish on a B10. So this is something good to know. Can you go to a tight shot just really fast so I can show them something? Sorry. Cool.
Here?
Yeah, so when you install your beauty dish on a B10 like the OCF, a lot of people will pop it on. This is what I used to do also. A lot of people kind of just pop it into place and kind of just keep the front, you're not really gonna be able to see it, there we go. They just kind of keep the front of the glass kind of even with the speed ring. Don't do that. Push it in as far as you can, okay? You want to, because of the flat front deflectors, they have, a lot of people think the flat front lights just kind of like push this straight beam out, and they don't. It's a pretty wide beam spread. So what you want to do is you want to push it as far forward as you can. That way you're not getting any extra light creep around the sides. Something like the B10X Plus, something like a bigger light, will give you, or like a B1 will give you the ability to push it in even further if you wanted to. But that's going to help keep any of this like extra light here from kind of like creeping out around the edge. So just heads up, OCF beauty dish users, push it in a little bit further. If you're using something like the original metal beauty dish, which we may talk about today, it has a stopper plate, so you can only go so far. So sweet. So just want to make sure you knew that also. So stop not putting your beauty dish in far enough. And that goes for me too, because I used to do the same thing. So sweet. And now you know why. So we are going to want, yeah. So we're going to want to be in about 3 to 4 feet away from Kate with this this light. Camera settings are 2/50th of a second, f8, ISO 160. I usually do those settings in the studio because one, I don't have to worry about these lights creeping into the shot, and it just means that if I'm a dummy and I miss focus, which I do a lot, f8 kind of saves my butt a little bit. So what do you say, 3-4 feet right here?
4.
That's fine.
Yeah, let's put 4.
Cool. We'll rock with 4 feet. So first shot we'll take with Kate. We'll do chin down just a skosh. There we go. 3, 2, 1. And then we're gonna throw the 2-foot octone. Oh, just for the heads up, and I didn't put this into the system because it was kind of a last minute call. I threw a strip box up here. There was it was getting really, really dark on this side of the image, so I decided just to separate Kate from the background a little bit. It was a last minute call, apologies, but that's a 1x4 strip box on a B10.
Do what you're gonna do. I'm gonna actually move to the side shot because I feel like it's a better
Gotcha.
distance relationship.
Cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna put this on the, we're gonna put the 2-foot reflector on there, and I'm gonna wind up moving this beauty dish back here. Trying to keep this efficient. There we go. So the beauty dish is now 20 feet away. So we'll change the channels here in a second to get that. So let's pop a 2-foot octa on. Little quick tip, if you pop open one of the panels and put your hand across the speed ring on the inside and put it onto the flash, it's light years easier. There we go. So just a installation tip, little quick pro tip for you. Sick.
Hi from France. Hey, John.
What up, John in France? Was John the one in France?
Yes.
Cool, what's up, John in France?
Hi, Bob.
Or is it Jan in France?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. See?
I don't know.
I'm just getting ridiculous.
Very American. Okay.
So the 2-foot octa is a little more protruding forward, so let's pop that. It's about the same there.
Same distance.
We backed it up just a skosh because the front barrel of the 2-foot octa is a little bit further out than the beauty dish, so just backed it up a skosh. So it's 1, out of my frame a little bit, and 2, closer to kind of where the light was. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. So cool. So I left them both at the same power, 7.3. Honestly, I think the power needs to come down a little bit more on the, here, let me put these side by side so you can kind of see them. Yeah, it's a little more powerful out of the beauty dish, so, but cool. So what we're gonna do here is we're going to turn this one, we're gonna set this one to the side, change channels because that's what we need to do. All right. I try to be all cool and efficient and keep things on different channels so I can just bounce around. We'll see if that comes back to bite me in the rear, which it currently is because my kicker light is on the wrong, I got it from here. Let's go to...
Hi, Thomas from Seattle.
What up, Thomas in Seattle? Cool. Everybody, thanks for coming and kicking it with us today. This is super fun. All right, here we go. Kate, you ready?
Awesome.
So I'm gonna do a TTL shot. My guess this is gonna wind up being like full power because that last shot was about 7.3. Honestly, it might actually only be about 2 stops more, so it might actually be about 9.3. I might actually just go ahead and dial that up myself and just see kind of where we are. Let's go 9.3. Make sure that we are... I've got the light raised up a little bit higher too because we're further back. I want the light to point downwards. I know you can't really see it because it's way back here, but it's back here right by the camera. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. It's actually not even enough power. Let's take it all the way up to 10. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. So it's consuming a lot of power and we're not even able to, like, I need a little bit more juice. Like I'll either have to bring my ISO up a little bit or I need a bigger light depending on what we're working with. So let's take the same thing and let's put the 2-foot octa on there. What's up?
7, 8.
Yeah, it's about 10 feet.
10.
It's about 10 feet. Cool. So we're gonna go 2-foot octa. So, and again, the reason behind showing you the difference between like a 2-foot octa and the beauty dish is they're the same size. So if in your mind you're like, oh hey, like I want the size of the modifier because I want whatever softness it provides just by being larger, then okay, this is still probably a better option, but let's see. Here we go, Kate. 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. So that's the same full power shot, perfect exposure. So we're not having to change any of our camera settings, so we're able to stay right where we want to. Let's now, just for fun, that's power level of 10, that's the 2-foot octa.
2-foot octa.
And so let's, for the funsies of it, put on the OCF Magnum and see what the difference is gonna look like light quality wise. They're probably still not gonna be able to see that well, so it's fine. Light quality wise, versus something a little bit larger in the softbox realm, but what we make up for in power. So let's go, I'm gonna bring it down 2 stops to 8. We might still be overpowered a little bit, but let's see, 3, 2, 1. That's pretty good. So by going with the Magnum, we gain 2 more stops back. Yeah, that's a good exposure. I'm happy with that. So sweet. Let's do some comparisons and see if anyone has any questions, and then we can talk about other things too. So let's start this thing off by jumping over here to the beauty dishes. Cool. Let's go full screen too. Perfect. So beauty dish wise and softbox wise, the light looks a lot different. My guess is with my B10, I wasn't able to push it in quite as far as I would like to. So maybe some of this little light, right? Actually, it's not even that. It's just that some of the light creeps out around the side of the beauty dish. Again, if I use the B10 Plus, I probably could have pushed that in a little bit more and gotten probably a little bit less of this light here. But because there is going to be some light coming out around the deflector plate, you can kind of start see it, how it wraps up here. This like darker area here, 1 is obviously Kate's shadow, but 2, that shape is being made from the deflector plate. Whereas when you go here to like the 2-foot octa, it's a little bit softer. I mean, relatively speaking, they're about the same softness, but the beauty dish is going to have just like a little bit more punch to it, just because that's what it is made to do. It's made to have a little bit more of a snap, maybe more so than a softbox, especially something like the 2-foot octa, which is running through 2 layers of diffusion. So it's taking that light, diffusing it, making it more even, hitting another diffusion panel, making it more even before it hits Kate. The background again went a little bit darker because the light's is able to be aimed a little bit more without any light leak coming out from the side of the deflector. And then the softboxes also have a recessed front, just so you can kind of see what we're talking about here. They have a recessed front, so you have a little more edge control here too. So that's also keeping some of that light off the background, which is kind of neat. But that's using a beauty dish kind of at the range that you want to be using a beauty dish at. Like I said, the 3-ish, 4-foot-ish range, trying to keep it relatively close.
I have 2 things. What zoom position is the Magnum in?
We'll talk about that here in just a second.
Okay. Is that a silver beauty dish?
No, so the beauty dishes that we're using are white beauty dishes, so they're probably the most forgiving of the 2 beauty dishes. The silver beauty dishes are much, just like a silver umbrella, they have much more of a tighter beam spread. They're a lot snappier. I mean, I could always pull one down and just show you. We could do the up close shot again with it.
And then there's, if we pull one down, or someone was also asking about feathering the light. Where do you place the modifier?
So feathering a beauty dish is probably a big no-no. Again, this is because, so someone was asking about feathering the light. And what feathering means, for anyone who has never heard of feathering a softbox.
You mean putting another side shot?
Yeah, let's do this side shot. Maybe this will make more sense. Actually, can you stand right here for just a second?
That's what I do.
So, feathering a shot, most of the time you point your softbox at the subject, right? Feathering is when you take the softbox and you start to point it away from the subject. And so what you're doing is you're still lighting the subject, but the subject's being lit with all of these photons out here, as opposed to the photons hitting the subject directly. So it's kind of like this nice sweeping light. When you do that with the beauty dish, you have to worry about all of, so here I can actually feather it against you. So right, I'm taking a photo of you, cool, and if I start to feather this, see how you can see my hand? All that in my hand that you can see is going to be direct light hitting you. So this is actually going to become a hard light source as opposed to a soft light source. So here, soft light source, here, feathered, hard light source. So good thing to know. Don't feather your beauty dish. Unless the only way that you could feather a beauty dish and it make any sense is to put a diffusion panel over the front of it. But at that point, you might as well just feather a softbox. Cool. And then someone was asking, we'll talk about the zoom position of the Magnum here in just a second when we bring up the 3 shots. Oh, we're forward. When we bring up the 3 shots from when we backed everything up. So cool. But just, and again, the feathering the beauty dish thing, all this extra light right here is light that came out from the side of the beauty dish. So all of this light would hit Kate. So cool. So let's talk about at distance, and I'm actually going to bring all three of these into the shot. So this is the beauty dish here on the side, right here. This is the soft box, and this is the magnum reflector. The magnum reflector is a smaller light source. It is a little, it's not a lot harder because you can actually see. So let's compare the shadows first. So both shadows are pretty similar. Honestly, the soft light reflector is pretty, it feels a little more feathered. That could be because I needed another probably half a stop of light in comparison to the 2-foot Octa. But my guess is shadow wise, we would have gotten something relatively similar. But again, this is a little bit less efficient, probably about a half stop underexposed, whereas the 2-foot Octa would give us a little bit either better exposure or more room to play without having to like worry about overpowering or without having to run our light at full power and killing the battery faster. And then you go to something like your magnum reflector, which honestly, this is probably even a little bit overexposed. And I gained back minimum 2 stops between the two modifiers. So whereas I was shooting at full power 10 here for this shot, I'm shooting at 8. Probably need to go here and come down a little bit, just because. Let's see if we bring the exposure back a little bit to try to match. There we go, skis. Yeah, so 0.3. But again, you can, and here's kind of something else you'll see. You see the, kind of like the highlight and the specularity and the snap of like this silver reflector, really, really punchy. The beauty dish has a lot of that too. The silver one would be a little bit more pronounced, but the white's gonna have a lot more of that snap. If I'm gonna try to just make everything even, let's just make everything even. Let's bring that up about by the half a stop that I feel like it needed, or maybe actually not even half a stop. Let's see, probably, yeah, about a quarter of a stop to make it relatively even. But really, really cool stuff. Again, you can see some more of the light kind of creep out here around the sides being broadcast forward. But quality wise, they're all pretty darn close. If you look at the shadow here, let's bring in the loop. So if you look at like the shadow here on the chin, there is some nice feathering there to kind of give some of that softness, but that line of demarcation isn't super feathered. Like it's kind of tight, whereas you start getting into the harder light source, it's got a lot less feathering, but there's still some feathering there. So light quality wise, you're not really losing anything by going to the harder light source. So just again, things to think about while you're trying to figure out like what's the right modifier to bring for the type of shoot that I'm doing. If you know that, and here's another thing that I didn't talk about earlier that I need to talk about now. A beauty dish is not meant to light a full body. It just isn't. The white beauty dish has a little bit wider throw, so it has the ability to do stuff like that. If you start jumping into things like the silver beauty dish, especially the silver soft light reflector, the harder beauty dish, it has a really tight beam spread. Like it really points the light right where you face it, and it doesn't trail off by much on the edges. So if you're using a beauty dish at the range that a beauty dish was kind of meant to be used at, it's not meant to light a full body. So like you need to augment that with like another modifier to light the full body if that's what you're going with. So, and I understand that's why people are backing these things up further. They're getting the light to fall off. You can see here with this how much of Kate is evenly lit. That's just the inverse square law, right? The further the light is away from the subject, the longer the light becomes, it falls off a lot faster, or I'm sorry, it falls off a lot slower. That's why Kate and the background are pretty evenly lit compared to when the light was closer. So all of these are going to give you that option, right? But your Magnum is giving you 2 stops more light back on your light. So you're getting 400 shots on a B10. You take it down 2 stops, now you're at like 1,200 shots. So these are the kind of decisions that you have to make when you're picking out your modifier. Like, is this the right modifier for this? Again, you had a little bit more savings in output with the 2-foot octa than you did the beauty dish at distance, and that's going to give you the option to turn the power down a little bit more, give you a couple more shots that you wouldn't have had. So this is why this thought experiment is a good thing to have, and just to understand again why a beauty dish isn't really the best modifier at distance. And again, at the end of the day, if you just love your beauty dish at distance, shoot with it there. Just understand what you're giving up when you do that. So, did I miss anything? Any questions?
Let's see. I always classify a silver beauty dish as a reflector. To my mind, a beauty dish should be white, says Scott.
Gotcha. So Scott's saying a beauty dish should be white.
Like a white dish.
Yeah, but there's something about people with darker skin tones with a silver beauty dish on them that just looks incredible. It just does. Like, it's one of my absolute favorite things on people with darker complexions. So, teach their own. But again, this is kind of what we were talking about here. I was thinking about diving into something.
I have one.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Sorry. What do you like to pair with your beauty dish as a modifier on the second light?
Are you talking about for?
So if you have your beauty dish, like your second light, we have the strip box.
So are you, no, I guess the question that I'm asking is, are you talking about like, so someone was asking what's the second light that I like to pair with my beauty dish? Are you talking about like if I was photographing a person and I wanted like the full body? What I would do is probably take the strip box and I would probably put it right up underneath. I've done this in the past. It works really well. You take the beauty dish and you put a strip box right underneath, because that way you're pretty close width-wise between the beauty dish and the strip box. The beauty dish can be a little bit bigger, which is fine because you're trying to light the face. But that's what I'll do. So if I want the look of the beauty dish, just like I said, kind of get it back that 4-foot range. But I also want to evenly illuminate the body. I'll throw like a 1x4 onto, like I'll super clamp it to the same stand, so they're kind of one modifier. And then I'll use that to light the body, the beauty dish to light the face, and that way I have a more even exposure while keeping the beauty dish at the range that I want to keep it at to get the look of the beauty dish.
Oh, we forgot to mention the zoom position.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, zoom position.
Sorry about that, guys.
On the Magnum reflector backed up, it's at like zoom position 1, if I'm not mistaken. Is that? Zoom position, so on a B10, to get it perfectly even with the edge of, I'll actually show you how to easily know whether you're using the most of it. Sorry.
You're just getting an armpit.
Oh, they're getting, yeah, nice. Much apologies. So, zoom position of 3. You want to go, yeah, so zoom position of 3. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that the glass panel in the front of the light is perfectly even with the OCF Magnum. So right here you can kind of see this line where the collar meets the actual reflector. If you just push it to where it's even with the beginning of the bell, that's the most efficient position for the OCF Magnum. That's the point that's going to give you 2 stops. If you take this and you start to push the light in a little bit more and you start not utilizing this back portion of the reflector, you're still going to gain some light output, but it won't be 2 stops. So
let's see. Can you use the beauty dish with the diffuser? What's the difference?
So the diffuser is just going to take a diffuser just does one thing. It takes your light and it makes it super even. Sorry for the uptight arm shot again, or I guess that was technically a neck shot.
You're just a blur now.
Yeah, it's just a blurry neck. A blurry, meaty neck. I wouldn't say that at all.
Okay.
So the diffusion panel, or diffusion in general, just takes your light and it makes it more even. It doesn't make it softer or anything like that. It just gathers all the light, broadcasts out in an even manner. So all the diffusion panel is going to do in your beauty dish is that. It's going to take the light of the beauty dish, it's going to make it a little more even. So if you wanted, you know what? Let's just take another shot really fast. Let me show you what the OCF looks like. Same position with Kate, but with the diffusion panel on. So this is probably going to feel a lot more like the 2-foot Octa because it's not going to let so much of that light out of the edges of the. I'm going to have to steal the sock out of my silver. So it just doesn't let as much of the light out of the edges. So, but let's go diffusion panel. And the diffusion panel of the OCF is a little more denser, a little thicker than. That's me double.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, that's.
Don't worry.
It's throwing me off a little bit.
Don't worry, I know what I'm doing.
But it's a little thicker, so it consumes a little bit more light than the diffusion panel of the soft light reflector. Soft light reflector is a little more opaque. So cool.
Do you want the side shot here?
Sure, we can do that. So 7.3. I'm guessing we're probably gonna have to go up about a stump. I'm gonna spitball it. You wanna get into position?
Yep.
About 4 feet?
4 feet.
Cool. Other thing I need to do is switch back to channel 1 because that's what we got to do. Let me switch my B10 Plus from my app to channel 1. I'm telling you, man, the app stuff keeps me from having to put steps on my pedometer. Wait, that's not good. So here we go. So I powered up by a stop, and then I'll bring these up and show it to you without diffusion. So 3, 2, chin down a little bit, 3, 2, 1. That's actually probably powered it up way too much. Let's bring it back a full stop. There we go, 3, 2, 1. It's actually probably a little bit more than I wanted. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Now we're in business. Perfect. So we'll show it to you with the diffusion panel side by side without diffusion panel, just so you can kind of see what it looks. Thanks, Kate.
You're welcome.
So, me bring up the original pop. So, and then show you again with the 2-foot Octa because, like I said, it's probably gonna have a lot more of that 2-foot Octa feel, and it does. So, the biggest thing that you're gonna see with the diffusion panel is it's gonna help kind of knock down some of that extra light that you get from the beauty dish by itself, just from that light leaking out of the side of the deflector. It is still, in comparison to the 2-foot, there is still a little bit more light here on this edge, which is to be expected. It's not bouncing off of anything, it's just hitting the deflector and being smoothed out. So it does have a little more light to the background than the 2-foot Octa does. Also, because it doesn't have the recessed front, there's no edge control, so it's going to start to throw the light a little bit wider also. So,
Robert wants to know, do you aim the plate above the eyes?
I try to always keep the middle of the light, no matter what I'm doing, above someone's eyes. So like the tough thing with like big modifiers, are we here to the front?
Side shot?
Yeah, no, it's fine right there.
Okay.
So the tough thing is if you kind of put the light, is this even to my eyes, Kate? I can't really see where
It's a little low.
Okay, so say if you put it like even to the eye like there, like dead center, the problem is from here at the bottom of the reflector, it's gonna light up. And so you can kind of get some uplighting, which isn't always the most flattering thing in the world. So I always try to take the center point and the deflector above eye line and then just bring it, try to do this no hands so you can kind of see what I'm doing, and then just kind of bring it down a little bit. One of the things that you can use to help you in positioning your beauty dish is to turn on the continuous light and see where the deflector, here, let me see if I can show you with this thing. It might not be bright enough, but I'll see if I can show you. So let's turn this up. So if you look, you can see, you see that? No. You see that right there? That's the deflector plate. So this shadow right here, this is the deflector plate. So you can take the continuous light, kick it on, and kind of see where that deflector plate is hitting your subject and try to keep your subject's face right in that deflector plate. The cool thing about beauty dishes, and this is probably a really, really cool way of showing you this, is yeah, there's a thing blocking the light, right? But look at how much light's in the deflector area, right? So it just does this really cool thing where it takes this light and it still wraps it and it's still throwing it, so this doesn't go black. And that's just, I think that's really, really cool. So you can get, again, you can get like this, the snap that you would get from the outsides, but it's nice and soft on the inside. You're not getting any harsh direct light, but you're getting like this cool illuminated shadow, kind of neat stuff. But turn this on and put your subject's face right in the deflection plate. You can even ask them, you can say, hey, can you see the light? Like as far as like, can you see the bulb directly? With either eye, you can just have them close an eye. That's a good way of doing it too. But just kick the continuous light on and see where that deflector plate's positioned. And again, try not to let the light get below, or try not to let the modifier get below to where it can also uplight. So, cool. Anything else?
That's it so far.
Cool. So again, the main thing that we're talking about is just making sure that you understand again why a beauty dish is used close and why you shouldn't necessarily back it up as far as a lot of people back it up. Again, rules are meant to be broken. Now that you kind of understand why, you can break the rule because that's what you like. But also know that there are other options out there for lighting decisions that you may or may not know about, or may not know that, hey, the difference between this and this isn't that big and I can maintain some battery life, right? So the difference between the OCF Magnum and the Beauty Dish, you know, obviously the Magnum's a little bit harder, but I try to pick a larger, harder light reflector to kind of keep some of that edge feathering that you're gonna get from something like the 2-foot Beauty Dish. So you still have some of that feathering. It's not obviously as big of a feather, but you have 2, maybe even 2.5 stops more light output than you would have had by just going with the Beauty Dish. So whereas now you had 400 shots at full power with the Beauty Dish, you now have 1,200 shots at 8 with the Magnum reflector. So, and that just gives you the flexibility of like saying like, yeah, I brought an extra battery, but I'm probably not going to need it because I've chosen this modifier for these reasons. So
I missed one question from Peter. He was asking about the streaking of light difference between, does it make the color difference? Oh, I read that wrong.
Huh?
What is the streak, what streaking is related? Oh, can you read
hold
it?
on. So
sorry, I'm just butchering it.
Peter Brobeck, what is striking is the relatively large difference in color rendering between the lighting using the Beauty Dish, softbox, and the reflector. Yeah, so because I would say that the light coming out direct, especially the really hard direct lights, are gonna kind of help broadcast a little cooler tone. Whereas, and granted, my softbox might be a little bit older, so I might be getting a little bit dirty on the front, but the 2 lights where we're getting a lot more direct light is kind of giving a crisper, cooler feeling than going through the softbox directly and just hitting both of those diffusion panels, where it kind of warms it up a little bit. Now, obviously the softbox much warmer. Here, let's pull the Magnum up so people know what the heck I'm talking about. Actually, let's just pull all the Magnum or all the far off shots off, because then that's more of an apples to apples comparison. So cool. So with the Beauty Dish, you're still getting some of that light creeping out around the side, so you're getting some of that direct light, which keeps it a little cooler. The hard light of the Magnum and that silver is just, it cools off a lot, and then it's that kind of, it feels a little bit warmer with the softbox, yes. And the My Kelvin is not set to auto white balance, so those are the actual, those are the way the colors are being rendered with the modifiers. So cool.
I think so. I think
sweet. So that was super fun. Again, know the rules. Now you know them. Break the rules. So again, if you love shooting your Beauty Dish at distances, keep shooting your Beauty Dish at distances. Just know what you're giving up. If you didn't realize that and you're like, oh, hey, like maybe I should be thinking about this. Cool. Now you know some other options for, being a little more efficient or being a lot more efficient and keeping maybe some of your battery life if you're using a battery powered light. You know now where to place your OCF Beauty Dish on your actual light itself. Just to kind of reiterate that one, because I only talked about it one time. You want to make sure, so a lot of people would put it on and you'd make it even with the front of the light, kind of like a position there. You don't want to do that. Yeah. So people would make it even with the light position, like right here, don't do that. Try to push your, let's show you this one more time. So even with the light is like right there, right? So that's the light even with the speed ring. So what you want to do is you want to actually push that in and try to get the front of this light a little bit closer to the diffusion panel. What that's going to allow for is less light leak out of the edges. It's also going to allow the deflector to do more of its job, kick that light backwards, wrap it around. So you learned about light position. Again, why it's a good idea and a bad idea to use certain modifiers at the distances to use them. We talked about the things that make beauty dishes beautiful. We talked about how to put your OCF beauty dish onto your B10 or your B1X, whatever it is that you're using. And yeah, it was all around good time. If you have any other questions, we do a one-on-one breakout session for anyone who wants to talk to one of us. So it could be myself, it could be Anders. You just, on prophoto.com, you just click, when you're the product, you just click like, yeah, there's a link, just click. You can come talk to us one-on-one if you want to about anything that we were discussing or anything else that you may want to discuss. Other than that, thank you all for coming and kicking it with us. We have some other really, really cool lives coming up in the next couple of weeks, and should be a good time. So in the meantime, have an awesome rest of your week. See you guys next time. Peace out.